Hey guys, this is Salamander Anagram with reaktortutorials.com, and today I'm going to be showing off my newest Reaktor ensemble called Bassic, which I've been working on for the last few months, and we just released a few days ago. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I come out with a new Reaktor video every week on a wide variety of subjects. If you have any suggestions for a video you'd like to see, please let us know in the comments. Alright, so let's get started. As the name implies, Bassic is designed mainly for bass sounds, but it's also kind of versatile. You can use it for a lot of stuff. And in order to show how everything works, let's just look at the initialized patch. So we have three oscillators to work with: oscillator 1, oscillator 2, and the sub. And the frequency of the sub is following oscillator 1, specifically the octave knob. So if we turn down the other two oscillators, we can hear that in action. And by default, the sub will be a sine wave, but you can also make it into a pulse. And the two main oscillators are pretty standard. We have an octave knob and a fine-tune knob, which controls semitones. And if you hold down the shift key, you can have it control very fine tuning as well. And of course, a level knob for amplitude, and a menu to control what type of waveform you want. These are all band-limited waveforms. They won't alias at all, unless you try to, modulate their frequency or something. So we have three standard wave types here, and then we have hard sync implementations of all of those wave types. So let's just look at the hard sync ones for a minute. They're the most interesting. So with the sync oscillators, you basically get two oscillators in one, and they're called the master and the slave. And the slave is going to run at a different frequency than the master, and the detuned amount is going to be chosen by the tune knob. And every time the master oscillator restarts, it's going to tell the slave oscillator to restart as well. And so you can hear just going to add some extra harmonics to our sound. Alright, so now let's just mix in another oscillator sound. Drop the oscillator 1 an octave, and set up oscillator 2. Okay, so now let's talk about the voicing section. And by default, this is going to be set to poly, but most of the snapshots are using either a mono or a legato selection here. And once either mono or legato is active, then all four of these controls beneath the menu become active as well. And the most important one, the one I enjoy the most anyway, is the unison knob. So if we set this to 1, we get the same sound we got with a polysynth. And if we set it to 2, then we actually double all of the oscillators and detune them by the amount chosen by this knob here. And we spread them across the stereo spectrum with this knob here. Okay, so utilizing the voicing section properly allows you to create these kind of huge chorused sounds with basically minimal to no effort. And moving along, the envelope is pretty boring, so it's just a standard ADSR. So let's talk about the filter. So this filter is one of the most complicated things I've ever designed, and it's just a ton of math and a lot of work going into implementing it and testing it and etc. So I hope you like it as much as I do. I guess I'll just let it speak for itself. Okay, so once you set the resonance over like around 2 or 3 or so, you start to get into self-oscillation territory, and it just kind of adds this really aggressive distortion to the sound, which I really enjoy. So next, let's talk about the modulation network in Bassic. Filter seems as good a place to start as any. Every knob on the interface can be modulated by right-clicking on the numeric display beneath the knob itself. And the color of the modulation band determines what modulator is being used. So if you have a red band around your knob, it's being modulated by the modulation envelope. And if you have a blue band, it's being modulated by the LFO. So the modulation envelope can be used to kind of create some custom modulation shapes, and usually I use the maximum velocity option with this, which just makes sure that the envelope is always triggered at maximum velocity instead of at whatever incoming MIDI value you have. Alright, so that's just using the modulation envelope to control the speed of the LFO, which is being used to control the frequency of the filter. Alright, so the distortion works pretty much how you might expect. You know, you turn up the knobs and you get more distortion. The format filter is pretty interesting though. It's a filter that is used to emphasize frequencies to make your audio signals kind of sound like the human voice. And by moving around on this XY pad here, we can change which vowels we are trying to sound like. And this can get a little out of control with all the harmonics being added from the filter and the distortion, so I like to just turn the volume down in the master before going too far with a format filter. And you can also modulate the XY position of the filter by right-clicking on these little bands on the above and to the left. And you can use the left button to control the depth of the modulation. Alright, so that's a brief overview of Bassic. We just released this through ADSRsounds.com. It's $19. I'll leave a link in the video description. We really do appreciate all of your support, and I hope you guys will check in again next week for a new Reaktor tutorial.